Thinking about starting an LLC in Alaska? Well, don't submit anything just yet. A few small mistakes like choosing the wrong name or skipping a license can create major problems down the road. And this video here will walk you through every step from naming your LLC to avoiding really common compliance traps that most people don't see coming. And there's also one really commonly overlooked decision that could absolutely wreck your privacy if you get it wrong, but we'll get to that in a minute. So let's start with the basics. So why would you even want to form an LLC in Alaska specifically? Well, first off, Alaska is one of the most tax-friendly states in the US. There's no state income tax on individuals or LLCs, so you get to keep more of your business profits in your pocket. On top of that, there's no statewide sales tax, which means that there's less paperwork and frankly, there's fewer headaches. Though some local areas, they may charge their own sales tax, so it's always good to double check on that. Another huge perk is asset protection. So Alaska has some of the strongest laws in the country for shielding business owners' personal assets. So for example, if your LLC gets sued for some reason, it's much harder for someone to go after your business or your personal property, like your house or your car. So this gives you an extra layer of peace of mind that's hard to find in other states. Plus, Alaska's business laws are straightforward and flexible, making it really easy for both solo entrepreneurs and partnerships to get started. The state is also known for supporting small businesses, which can make your journey just a little bit smoother, which is important. Now, before we can take advantage of all these benefits that the state has to offer, you've got to pick the right name for your LLC, and trust me, there are a few rules you'll want to know before you settle on the perfect one. So let's go ahead and talk about that next. But I do want to say, before we dive in deep here, know this. Starting your business should feel exciting and not stressful, but forming an LLC yourself can get really overwhelming fast with, confusing forms, legal requirements, and missed details. Now, while I try to make things crystal clear in this video, my favorite LLC formation service makes the whole process very simple, guided, and stress-free. Plus, it's just $39 to use. So if you hesitate on any step in this video or get confused, just click right up here and sign up for a guided step-by-step walkthrough to create your LLC as simply as possible. That said, let's get back to breaking things down so that you don't get tripped up. All right, so you're ready to name your Alaska LLC. This part is actually more important than most people realize. You can't just pick any name that you like. Alaska has a few rules to keep things organized and make sure that nobody's getting confused. So first, your LLC name has to be unique, right? That means that it can't be the same as or even too similar to another business that's already registered in Alaska. Now, the easiest way to check if your dream name is available is to use the Alaska Corporations database search. And the link for that is below in the description. So just type in your idea and see what pops up. If you find a match, you'll need to get creative and come up with something different. Second, your name has to include limited liability company or an abbreviation similar to that. So LLC or L.C. So if you want to call your business, Northern Lights Consulting, you'll need to make it Northern Lights Consulting LLC. There are also a few words that you can't use unless you have special permission, like bank, insurance, or university. These are reserved for businesses that are licensed or regulated in those industries. So unless you're actually opening a bank, steer clear of those terms. And if you find a name that you love, but you're not quite ready to file your LLC paperwork, Alaska actually lets you reserve the name for 120 days for a $25 fee, which is pretty cool. That way, nobody else can actually grab it while you get together all the other documents that you need. And now that you've got your name kind of sorted out here, the next step is just as crucial, which is finding the right registered agent for your LLC. And this one detail you also don't want to overlook, because if you get it wrong, it could actually be a huge problem in the future. So with a registered agent, this is one of those steps that sounds a little technical, but it's actually pretty straightforward. And frankly, it's super important. So a registered agent is basically your business's official point of contact for legal and government documents. You can think of them as your LLC's mailbox for anything official, like lawsuit notices or annual report reminders. Alaska law says that every LLC must have a registered agent with a physical address in the state, and there's no PO boxes allowed whatsoever. So who is it that can be your registered agent? Well, you've got a couple of different options. You can be your own registered agent as long as you live in Alaska and are always available during normal business hours. You can also ask a friend or family member who lives in Alaska, or you can hire a professional registered agent service. Now, me personally, I recommend Northwest registered agents to everybody that I work with, basically, because I know that they're very, very good at what they do. They're very professional, and they make sure that you get the documents that you need. And frankly, their fees are very, very minimal. And again, you can just check right up here for the link to that to go ahead and check them out yourself. So here's a quick example of how this would work if you did it yourself. So let's say you live in Anchorage and work from home. You could list yourself as a registered agent and use your home address. But if you travel a lot or just want some privacy, you might pay for a registered agent service. That way you don't have to worry about missing a delivery or having your home address on public record, which is also a risk that you run. If you do it yourself, that can definitely happen as well. And frankly, choosing the right registered agent, like Northwest registered agents, it'll keep your business in good standing and helps you avoid missing any critical paperwork. Now, once you've got that sorted, you're ready for the next big step, which is actually filing your articles of organization and making your Alaska LLC official. And we'll get into exactly how to do that next. All right, so this is the moment where your Alaska LLC officially comes to life, right? Filing your articles of organization is basically like giving your business its birth certificate. It's how you tell the state, hey, we exist, we're here, right? Now, you'll find your articles of organization with the Alaska Division of Corporations, Business and Professional Licensing. Now, you can do this online, again, link below, which is the fastest way, or you can mail in a paper form if you prefer. The filing fee is $250, and if you file online, your LLC is usually approved instantly, which is really nice. If you mail it in, it could take up to 10 to 15 business days in total. But here's what you'll need to include in your articles of organization to make it properly processed. So first is your LLC's name, and make sure that it matches exactly what you picked earlier. Also, the name and physical address of your registered agent, the purpose of your LLC. So this can be broad, like, to engage in any lawful business. That's okay. The names and addresses of the organizers. So these are the people that set up your LLC. Whether your LLC will be managed by its members or by managers, and we'll walk through a quick example of that. So imagine that you're starting, Arctic Paws LLC. You'd fill out the online form with your business name, list your registered agent, maybe you or maybe a service, add your business address, and check the box that says that your LLC will be managed by its members, which again is you. Once you pay the $250 fee and hit submit, you're almost there. Your LLC is now recognized by the state. But don't pop that champagne yet, because there are a few more things that you need to do to stay legal and keep your business running smoothly. So next up, we'll talk about those important post-formation steps that you really don't want to miss. Okay, so first you'll need to get an employer identification number, or EIN, from the IRS. So think of this as your business's social security number. You'll need it to open a business bank account, hire employees, and file taxes. Now, the good news, it's completely free, and you can apply online in just a few minutes with the IRS EIN application. Link below. Next, Alaska requires every business, including LLCs, to have a state business license. This is separate from your articles of organization. The license costs $50 per year, and you can apply online through the Alaska Department of Commerce. Link below, as always. And if you skip this step, you could face fines or even have your LLC dissolved, so don't overlook it. You'll also want to create an operating agreement for your LLC. Now, this isn't required by Alaska law, but it's highly recommended. And what an operating agreement is basically a rule book for how your business will run. So who owns what, how profits are split, and what happens if someone wants out. Even if you're a one-person show, having this document can help prevent future headaches. And also don't forget about the biennial report, which is every 2 years, Alaska requires LLCs to file a report to keep their information up to date. The fee is $100, and you can file that online, again, link below. If you miss the deadline, though, your LLC could fall out of good standing and eventually be shut down, so don't overlook it. So once you've knocked out these post-formation steps, you're almost ready to start doing business. But before you dive in, there are a few ongoing compliance tasks and costs that you'll want to keep on your radar. So let's talk about those here next. So staying compliant, it isn't complicated, but it's super important if you want to avoid fees or having your business actually completely shut down. So first up, you'll need to renew your Alaska business license every year. And right now this costs $50, and that again can be done online in just a few minutes. Pretty easy to do. If you forget to renew, you could face late fees or even lose your license, which means that you can't legally operate. So don't miss that one. Next, remember that biennial report that we just mentioned? Well, every 2 years, you'll need to file that report with the state and pay the $100 fee, even if your information hasn't changed. The report really just updates your business info, like your address and registered agent, so that the state knows how to reach you. But even if it hasn't changed, you still have to submit it. And missing this deadline, it can lead to your LLC falling out of good standing, which could eventually get your business dissolved as well. And depending on your business type and your location, you might also need local permits and licenses, right? So for example, if you're running a food truck in Anchorage and have some really good tacos, you would need a city permit on top of your state business license. And each city and borough in Alaska has its own rules, so it's worth checking your local government as well to see what actually applies to you beyond what I've gone over. So to make this easy for you, I want to do a quick cost breakdown for a typical year. So you're going to have your Alaska business license renewal, which is $50, a biennial report, which is $100 every 2 years, so $50 a year. Registered agent service, right? And it depends on what you're doing, but let's assume, $150 a year. And any local permits or licenses, and that'll vary by the city or state. So if you're handling everything yourself and don't need a registered agent service, you're looking at maybe $75 to $100 a year plus any local fees, which isn't bad, keeping your business, in good standing and avoiding any nasty surprises. And keeping up with these requirements, again, it is the absolute key to making sure that your Alaska LLC stays active and protected. So now you've got the full picture of what it takes to start and maintain an LLC in Alaska. And if you want to dive deeper into any of the steps or just have questions at all about your specific situation, let me know in the comments below and I can break it down further and just, let you know what you're missing.